from the AirTech Heating Studios, a Born to Win media production. Welcome to the resurrection of Say It Like You See It.
Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. It's a brand new week here on Say It Like You See It, and I am your host, Trace the Moose Moustakis, joined alongside my partner in crime, Quinn, the Mighty Q Redmond. I am live from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, the heart of Packer country. He is live from Fargo, North Dakota. Let's bring him in. Mighty Q, it's good to see you, buddy. How are you?
What's poppin', my guy? Happy Tuesday. It's a Taco Tuesday, as everyone knows. I like to mention that on my Instagram all the time as something that we'll be talking about a little bit today. It's a callback to when LeBron was doing his Taco Tuesday thing. And so I always like to I always like to, make a little Instagram story on Tuesdays and really inflection on that Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, he did that for like a full year, right? He was going after it for like a full year. Every Tuesday
it was a bit because he wanted to get it. He wanted to get the trademark for it.
Yeah, you don't own tacos and you don't own Tuesday, so good luck with that.
I mean, I think he's got a better chance at that than the GOAT.
Well, you know what? So speaking of LeBron and the GOAT, there's a big little, well, not big little, but it's a big story out of a little podcast. Let's say that. So Mario Chalmers, who, if for those of you who don't know or need a little bit of a refresher, Mario Chalmers was the starting point guard for the Miami Heat during the Heatles run, basically from 2009 to about 2014. Mario Chalmers was the starting point guard. So it was him, Bosh, Wade, LeBron, and Udonis Haslem starting in that top five. And Mario Chalmers had a lot to say about LeBron and his legacy this in this little podcast that he did. So basically, let me sum up to you because we don't have the sound bit, but let me sum up to you basically what he said. Mario called out LeBron and said during LeBron's reign and this entire 20 years, 21 years that LeBron's been in the NBA, no one has actually been afraid of LeBron James. No one's been afraid to play against LeBron. No one's been afraid to go up head to head against LeBron. No one was fearing LeBron the way that people feared Michael Jordan. And then he did give LeBron his flowers and he said, hey, look, Bron's going to go down as one of the top three greatest players that's ever played the game. Massive props to him. I played with him. He was amazing. He's always been amazing. And he'll go down as one of the greatest basketball players for the end of time. I mean, I don't think there's going to be another LeBron James in our lifetime ever. But with that being said, there is something to be said. It's inches, not feet, when it gets to who is the greatest basketball player of all time. And I think mentality and lore and legacy, reputation, all of that has to go into the argument. And basically what Mario Chalmers is saying is, look, he didn't have that. LeBron will always just be a transcendent, great basketball player. He will never be this sort of legacy that Michael Jordan, this legend that Michael Jordan was, because there wasn't that edge. And part of that is because, maybe it's the way that we play the game of basketball today. Part of it is, the friendships that these players have today in the NBA. But let me get into this, Quinn, real quick with you. I'm going to ask you your opinion. Does Mario Chalmers have any room to stand on? Does he have a leg to stand on? Is he right? Is he wrong? What do you think?
Yeah, and I think his point is a kind of extension to something that Dennis Rodman always talks about. And I saw a quote by Dennis Rodman because every once in a while, like based off Facebook or Instagram or whatever, people are always posting on different Michael Jordan fan pages or LeBron fan pages. Anytime a player comes out and mentions, hey, so-and-so thinks this about MJ or so-and-so thinks this about LeBron or this happened, yada, yada, because it's just people have this conversation all the time. But Dennis Rodman made a very good point when he was talking about how he would defend LeBron. He's like, he doesn't have any moves. He's just big. And to that degree, yes, LeBron has had semi-ball handling, but he ball handles well for someone who's 6'9". It's not, he's not a better handler than any guard or any top five guard in the NBA. It's like, yes, he's a good passer, but it also goes with when you have good vision at 6'9", there's a lot of times that he makes passes over the top of people or, he's drawn out the play, he's just getting the ball to the right guy. And so I'm not trying to say that LeBron's not a good player, because clearly he is. It's more based off of longevity and how he's able to keep himself healthy for however long, and he operated at a high level. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy that can shoot, that was able to essentially go powerful down the lane, and there was a lot of people who moved out of his way. Like, that's LeBron's thing, and we're starting to see it with Giannis. It's like, is Giannis a great basketball player? Yes. And the reason that Giannis then developed into a better basketball player over the last 2 seasons was he finally understood how to shoot a three-point better. And so what we're seeing from Giannis now, and have seen for the last 2, 3 seasons, is a lot what we see with LeBron. It's, holy cow, this is the most athletic player in the league. And that's now what basketball has kind of turned into. It's no longer about skill and finesse, because when you looked at when MJ played, it was guys had specific position skills. You had a defender on the team. You had an offensive scorer on the team. You had a 3-point in the corner guy. You had, you know, Kareem had his shot with the sky hook, but it's like the bigs, they put their back to the basket and they were good with those types of moves. With LeBron, it's like he's an okay 3-point shooter, but like, you never go, oh man, I hope LeBron doesn't torch us from 3 tonight. And it's like, he's an okay mid-range shooter, but when you look at who's the best in the league, you look at a lot of other shooters before him. He doesn't really back anybody down. We can go back to 2010 with the Mavericks and JJ Barea on that. I mean, LeBron is just a good athlete that stayed healthy and was able to operate consistently for 20 years in the NBA. It The whole, "Oh my gosh, he's better than MJ" debate, it's like, no, because at the end of the day, I forget what the statistic is, but it's like something like 25 out of 30 players who played both against MJ and LeBron, 25 of them say MJ is the best. And it's like, in terms of the GOAT debate, I'm gonna listen to the people that played against both of them, because those people have, like, a lot more of a say, and there was a lot of them on there that played against Wizards
Yeah.
MJ. Not, dominant,
Right.
super, super focused, killer MJ, versus LeBron, the great athlete, the big body who has great court vision, can semi handle the ball. But like, I saw something, one of his videos, because he does that like weird, like with the ball's in his right hand, and he looks, and he looks at the ball. He does that like, he looks at his hand down at the ball, back to his left, and three.
It's
So
not a
I
move.
don't
Yeah.
I give LeBron credit for that move, because when at the same time, he was, like, in the corner, like, trying to have handles and airballed a 3. There's certain things that LeBron does that you go, "Huh?" Like, "Huh?" And MJ never had those where you're like, "Ugh, ugh," like, "That's ugh, what was that?" Like, everything was, like, down the court looking good. Like, MJ didn't take a play off, and you see LeBron takes a lot of plays off. So everything that Mario Chalmers said, like, it's all true. And yes, LeBron's a phenomenal athlete. It's the same. It's like I said, it goes to Giannis. We're gonna see how long Giannis can be the player he is, but Giannis has injury problems as well. And so that was the difference with LeBron. He didn't get injured for a lot of years, and he was able to be pretty dominant, pretty efficient, because honestly, the fact that he doesn't put up 35 points a night is actually kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So look, obviously a lot has changed since Michael Jordan has been in the NBA. I mean, the NBA is now full of friends. I mean, there's the clique, right? There's For a long time it was LeBron, it was D Wade, it was Melo, it was Bosh, and it was Chris Paul. That was the clique. They were all friends.
The
They all,
Banana Boat
yeah, the
crew.
Banana Boat crew. They all hung out after the season during the off season, and they went on vacation together, and it was all great and awesome. And there was still an on court rivalry, but it was more because you play for this team, I play for this team. In MJ's era, everyone hated each other. They all despised each other, but they respected each other. Now in the NBA, the reason that nobody takes it seriously is number one, these superstars, they're all friends. There's no storyline to it. So everyone just sits there and they go, okay, great. LeBron's playing, or LeBron was playing Melo, or LeBron was playing Bosh, or, and everyone teams up and they all play with their buddies. Kevin Durant is famous for this. Same with Kyrie. But one of the things that I've noticed throughout LeBron's career, and one of the things why I believe nobody fears him, is because in the moments that LeBron needed to be the greatest basketball player on the planet, there were times, not every time, because there were times that he did it. There were times when you were like, it's just not there. I'll give you a perfect example. He disappeared in that very first finals against the Mavericks, with the very first time with the Heat, games 4, 5, and 6. He was non-existent. Everybody was calling him out. Why isn't LeBron taking that shot? Why isn't LeBron bringing the ball up? Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? Why isn't he guarding Dirk? Why, MJ never sat away from a moment. He might have failed. There may have been a time where MJ had to take the game-winning shot and he missed. Nobody criticizes LeBron for missing the game-winning shots. It's in the biggest moments where you need to prove you are the best player on this planet. You haven't always done it. And that's why you're not the greatest. It's because of moments like that. It's because in clutch games 4, 5, and 6, where you need to close it out and win your first NBA finals, you come up short. So I think that kind of played into the narrative of LeBron is soft. I wouldn't say LeBron's soft. I just think LeBron doesn't have the same fire and intensity that guys like MJ had, that guys like Kobe had, that guys like Allen Iverson had. I mean, all of those guys, when they played against you, they hated you. They may have been cool with you off the court. Like Kobe didn't hate everybody that, he played against. There were many stories where Kobe would call up somebody like Chandler Parsons or Paul Pierce, and, they'd be cool. They'd talk on the phone, for hours on end about different defensive strategies and stuff. But when they were on the court, they hated you. You were nothing to them. They were going to do everything they could to beat you. That was how MJ played. That was how Kobe played. That was how Allen Iverson played. And LeBron just kind of is like, yeah, I'm just bigger, stronger, faster than you. I'm just going to do more than you. And the last 5 years of LeBron's career, with the whole addition of the one and done, which, by the way, back when LeBron was in the early stages of his career, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing until like 2013, 2014. Guys went to college for 2 to 3 years, or they jumped straight out of high school until that got banned. So, but very rarely did you get the jump out of high school guy. There were guys that would, hey, he's 21 years old. He's a rookie. You know what I mean? Now you got 18, 19-year-old rookies coming out to play. LeBron is bodying kids that are 6'4", 195 pounds, and he's 6'8", 260. Like, who's going to win that battle? Come on. So in terms of playing bully ball, you're absolutely right. LeBron doesn't have a ton of skill. He just learned to maximize what he does the best. Same with Giannis, which is you're really going to stand in the way of somebody who's 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 260, 270, 280. Good luck. You're going to either get called for a block or you're just going to get shoved out of the way.
Exactly. And it's like most of LeBron's like early career, you're like, where are his biggest moments? It's like, well, he put a lot of people on posters. Like there was a lot of people that, he came down hard, pretty hard down the lane with a couple steps. And there was a lot of people that also moved out of the way. And it's like to that same degree, if that was the intention, you kind of like make an attempt at that and a guy backs off and you hit some mid-range jumper. It's like, yeah, you should probably hit a lot of those. And I liked what you were talking about in terms of him not taking the big shots. It's like, yes, we get it. His finals record is his finals record. But each of those finals you can put an asterisk on. And each one of them have nothing to do with him. Like, okay, yes, the 3-1 win was probably the best one, but there was moments in there that have nothing to do with him. And the whole like Mavs situation and how the fact that they even lost that series, because for me, yes, he went to 8 straight finals. He was in the East and he had 2 different teams. The Warriors have had their thing going for a good amount of time with the same core, and they've made it to and won 4 times.
Yep. 4-1.
And it's like, they did, and like, yes, Kevin Durant was on the team. Yes, they ended up losing one of those, but it's like you look at the core of what the Warriors did, and the Warriors just kind of ran it back, and they did it for 8 years, but they won 4 times. And you look at what LeBron did, and it's like, well, LeBron was in Cleveland, and then he went and built a super team in Miami, and then the first chance that they got, because they walked through the East, it's like, what was their toughest competition? The Bulls with Derrick Rose. Okay. And that year, Derrick Rose, thanks to Tom Thibodeau, I still think, with his whole knee situation, but it's like, okay, cool. You beat the Bulls, whose best player was Derrick Rose, followed up by Joakim Noah. Like, I'm not gonna like try to knock and be like Joakim Noah's not that good, but it's like after Rose was out, Joakim Noah's your one.
Well,
Like,
that Bulls for starting five was not nearly as talented as some of those Cavs teams. I mean,
right.
your other
Cavs and
well,
Heat
correct. I
teams.
mean, your other offensive threat was Carlos Boozer, who was like at that point 85 years old in basketball, basketball years.
I just think, yeah, 8 straight years in the finals in the East. Like people talk about, oh, well, MJ didn't even make it to the finals. It's like, yeah, because MJ had to play two great Celtic teams that went on to win the championship. And it's like, in that first series that he played against him, he kind of put up 61. So it's like, which time are we going to talk about how MJ, oh, well, he didn't even make it to the finals. What about his losses? It's
He
like,
didn't just put
yes,
up
but he didn't play shitty in any series
yeah,
ever.
he didn't just put up 61. People forget that was game 2 that he put up 61. In game 1 he put up 49. So in
Right.
2 games, he was averaging like 55 points. Like it was just, yeah, I mean, and at the, people can talk all they want. Oh, MJ took 35 shots a game. He had to. It's the same thing with Kobe. Like, look at the guys that he was playing with. This was before Scotty. Like, he was playing with guys that Charles Oakley was one of his teammates, right? Charles Oakley, who is a renowned defensive player. Charles Oakley, for his entire career, averaged less than 10 points a game. It was like 9.8. So, I mean,
And that's just the way it is. So I think that's the bigger difference. It's like the whole MJ LeBron debate kind of gets, and it's like it's first listen to the guys who played against both of them because those are going to be the best opinions. Secondly, if you look at each of their losses in each of this series, you go, okay, was it ever one of their faults for just completely playing terrible? And there was a lot of situations where you're like, ooh, LeBron did not play well. Specifically, the finals loss to the Mavs.
yeah, it was
And
terrible.
that's always an easy one to turn to because it's like LeBron has quite a few of those. And it's like he didn't exactly play great against Golden State, but he did play well and at times. And then at the same, and then people go, oh, well, Kyrie got hurt. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And I feel like people make a lot of excuses when it's like at the end of the day, if you need to win one series, I think as the best player in the league, you should be able to figure out a way to do it. But I think to that credit, you kind of mentioned John Morant as we were talking earlier before the show. And I think that's what we're going to kind of get into next, right?
Yeah, so John Morant obviously has been in some serious trouble. Just backtracking a little bit, he has been in multiple news stories, whether it was the 17-year-old that he allegedly, I say that, beat up last summer and pulled a gun on. It was the Indiana Pacers incident where there was the laser that everyone thought could have been a gun. And then most recently, in the Denver nightclub, flashing somebody else's weapon, which notably the police did an investigation, said it wasn't his. He doesn't own any illegal firearms. He won't tell us who it was because he's not going to snitch. But John Morant clearly has had some, I'm going to call them self-image issues, to put it mildly, because, and I have a lot to say about this, not because, and I feel that it's a little bit of a touchy subject because as a white guy commenting about how a black guy should act, it's not necessarily translated well. However, I will say this. There are certain rights and privileges that he has earned as an NBA star. His hard work, his dedication to the game has gotten him to where he's at, and he is throwing it away by trying to act like something that he absolutely 100% isn't. So before I get into my spiel, I'm going to ask you, John Morant, what does he need to do to kind of ditch this negative self-light, that he's kind of put himself in?
I think this. So I go a couple ways with it because there's a handful of issues. There's the okay, let's not play the race card. Let's leave race completely out of it. At the end of the day, as a man, he should not be doing those things. There's a lot of different ways to take this, but essentially, one of the best I can think does come from the Bible, and it's the meek shall inherit the earth. The translated version of meek is not weak. It's not someone who's small or little or is passive. It is someone who is very powerful and keeps their sword sheathed. It is a warrior who knows how to use their weapon but keeps that weapon sheathed. So that is exactly what Ja had, like, all the hard work, all the dedication, all the time he spent in. And as a man, putting that in and that hard work to get where he is to succeed, that's all he needs to rely back on. So if anyone's in his ear chirping about, "Hey man, you need to help out so and so. Hey man, you need to help out so and so," I think he's going to continue to do enough for the community and will continue to give back as part of the NBA and what the NBA does. But there's also a problem that, okay, let's actually bring race into this. And there's a very large issue that then gets brought into play based on the fact that, oh, he's a black guy that talks right, as some would say, and is now putting on an act because, oh, well, that's, he needs to prove his toughness. He needs to prove that, he can hang with whatever. And to a degree, it's it's like the reverse racism on, like, relatively black on black racism, because it's like, oh, someone who's doing well and, isn't hood or isn't whatever terminology you want to put on that. You know, Essentially not doing gang banging stuff out in the streets, not acting a certain type of way. Oh, you're not black enough. Oh, you're not this. At the end of the day, who cares? Leave all that stuff. You are a professional basketball player that you've worked your entire life for. You have had no childhood. You dedicated your life to basketball and you had been focused on basketball and had always given attention to that. Why now do you think it's time for all the stuff that you've done? Your entire life has been based on, I care a lot about basketball. I want to be really good at basketball. And I'm going to continue to get better and build every single day until I make it into the NBA and I'm just a phenomenally great basketball player. Not only that, the fact that Nike like, he has the chance to, and like, because based off of like the top players in the NBA, who you think is the best, who you don't, and like based off of the top 3 in the MVP race right now, none of them are Americans. And if you gave kind of like a credit to like, oh, like what's kind of like, Ja had the chance and has the chance, if he kind of decides to just be like a really good basketball player that can be a great role model for kids by not being a role model, by just being a hardworking athlete that he's always been and just he's done the exact same thing his entire life. But like people that just throw everything, they just all their traditions that they grew up on, just like, I'm just going to create something new. Like, I get it if he doesn't want to be a role model. I get it if he has people asking him and coming to him and doing whatever. You don't have to. You don't need to be a negative impact though.
Correct.
Like, be the greatest born, American born player in the NBA that essentially will print you money. You can have whatever thing. If so and so wants to be complaining about, oh, you need to help out, what? Okay, then cool. Write people a check. Don't talk to them again. That's it. It is as simple as that. You can write him a check. Boom. Set a wall. Don't come talk to me. Like, that's it. Like, you can cut people off in that manner without, trying to be a rude anything. It's stay focused. You have a chance to literally be the number 1 American player. And there's, stuff that is nonsense that he's worrying about instead. And I hate to see it because I know how, like, how much work and dedication he's like. People make it seem like, being blessed with athleticism and being slightly ahead of every other kid then makes it some odd difference when once you actually make it to the pros and people are like, "Oh, well, he's just so pro." It's like, um, they didn't have a childhood. They didn't have anything else. And there's part of the degree where, like, I'm kinda at right now. It's like, what am I supposed to do now? I spent my entire life playing sports. Not only playing sports, dedicated to them to where I was pulling two-a-days when I didn't have two-a-days, and I was practicing on my own outside of practice. It's like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, there's a lot of, "Hey, what do I do now?" And I know what he's put in. Like, you don't have a life if you want to be a professional athlete and you get all the way to that point, you did not have a life your entire childhood. You don't have the sleepovers, you don't have anything to go back on and, oh, joys, memories, whatever. Your memories are practice. That's it.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, let me say this. This is in no way a criticism to Jaws' uh, athletic ability, his skill as a basketball player. He's clearly one of the top 10. I would probably argue a top 6 NBA talent, top 6 basketball talent on the earth right now. He is unbelievable to watch. He is what Derrick Rose would have been if Derrick Rose,
With healthy
yeah, with
knees.
healthy knees and a more effective jump shot earlier on in his career. I mean, he's the spitting image of what Derrick Rose was. Super aggressive, unbelievable hops, this hyper athletic ability to slash and get to the rim. It's incredible to watch him. With that being said, Ja, I believe, has fallen into the trap that I feel is kind of perpetrated on him by the media as a young black guy. And that is, there is this wide perception for a lot of people, not white, not just white, but black as well, that when you have money, when you have status, when you have power as an African American, that there needs to be that sort of, we're in the club, we got guns, we got people that roll up with us, our squad is 10 people deep, I've got my boys, and the truth be told, the most boring player in the entire league today is black and is from Greece, and that's Giannis. Like, the most boring dude. He goes to the game, he goes home, he works his ass off, he sticks with his wife and his kid, or his girlfriend and his kid. I don't know if he's married yet. Girlfriend and his kid, and he stays out of the media. Same with Jokic. Jokic is perhaps the most boring superstar we've ever seen. I don't even think I've heard the guys utter 10 words this year. But there's a reason that the media covers Ja, and it's because he's outspoken, and it's because he's electric, and he's got personality, and he's got flair, and he's got the hair, and he's got the hops. And part of what I believe Ja's problem is that he is taking what hip hop artists' status is, and he's trying to translate it into the NBA. Kind of how Allen Iverson did. Remember Allen Iverson when he came in and he had all the tattoos and the sweatbands and like he had the baggy shorts? Everybody copied him. And they all said he's a terrible role model and this and that and the other. But Allen Iverson was just expressing himself. He wasn't breaking the law. Ja is actually doing things that could get him arrested. That's the biggest issue, is that no one cares if you try to act, and I'm going to put air quotes around this because this is not my phrase, but it is the phrase used. Trying to act hood. No one is upset that you're trying to express yourself in a particularly, African-American or proud of your heritage way or your roots or wherever you come from. The problem is that some of the things that you're doing, some of the things that your posse, your clique, your boys are doing is breaking the law. Like putting a gun to someone's head and beating the crap out of a 17-year-old kid, that's against the law. Having a gun in a nightclub that doesn't belong to you, so if it's not a legal carry state or an open carry state and it's not yours, it's against the law. Like there are things you can be thrown in jail for, not just lose your NBA career for. And I think that's what everyone's trying to get it through his head, is that there's, people that support him is like, oh, you guys just, you hate that Ja's expressing himself like a black guy. No, we don't want him to break the law because there are kids, excuse me, there are kids out there that emulate Ja Morant. There are basketball players growing up through the AAU system right now and in high school and in college that their favorite player is Ja Morant. So when they see Ja doing it, it must be okay, right? No, that's not the way that and whether you want to be a role model or not, you have to realize that you are. Even if Charles Barkley had this, Tigers had this, there are a lot of superstar athletes that don't have the role model attitude, right? Which is, I want to be there for the kids. I want to give back to the community. I want to be an example. LeBron has been a great role model, not only for his kids, but to basketball players everywhere. But there are certain athletes that are just that. They're incredibly talented. Kevin Durant being one of them. They're just so good at what they do. That's all they want to do. And I think Tiger suffered from this for a while. Tiger was just the greatest golfer we've ever seen. There was not a lot of, he wanted to be a role model or expected to be a role model, but nonetheless, it comes with the territory. When you are that gifted, when you have that much media presence, you are a role model, whether you like it or not. So you have to act accordingly. And if that means going against your principles, which is, hey, I never asked for any of this, man. Great. You didn't ask for it, but you're thrust upon it. So you're either going to do the right thing or you're going to do the wrong thing. Not every situation has to be how you want it to be. You've got to deal with the cards that have been dealt. And part of the cards that have been dealt with your amazing God-given talent is that people are going to look at what you do under a microscope all the time.
Yeah, that's the piece that's kind of tough because there are a lot of pro athletes that are like, I don't want to be a role model. And it's like, sorry, that's part of the job description of being a pro athlete. Right. You've got thousands of people that look to you. You've got thousands of kids growing up that see you on TV, that are going to emulate you, that want to be you, that see the position that you're in the same way that you were a kid and looked at whoever was playing in the league at the time. And you go, I want to be just like them. And then next thing you know, you start acting like them, you start mimicking them, you start doing all the same thing that they do, you start wearing your hair the same way. I mean, every kid goes through it. And that's just the natural part of being a professional athlete. You sign a contract and you're getting paid. Well, part of that lifestyle is everything you do is going to be on it's going to be on camera. Right. So either you're going to get caught, or you should probably lay low and wait. Like, at the end of the day, just wait until you're not a pro athlete.
Right.
Like, the minute you're out of the league, dog,
do whatever you want.
You are no longer that role model. Like, that status, you're not getting paid you're not on an active NBA contract. You're right. You do not have to be a role model. You can be like, I'm retired, I'm this, I'm what. But when you are part of an NBA franchise, that is part of what they're paying you for, is that gets injected into it when you have 20,000 people a night coming to games, seeing you live in person. You've got thousands and thousands more watching on TV around the world. And that's the part that I think is tough sometimes to think about. It's like, hey, millions of people watch your every move.
Right. And I think there is a little bit of this is seeping into the Odell situation and why I believe Odell can't find a team. And I believe it's because when Odell came into the league and was lighting the world up on fire, he had the catch, against the Dallas Cowboys, and he was the best thing since sliced bread. Everybody was talking about Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
Part of when someone tells you you're so amazing at something, when they continually beat it into your skull, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're this, you're that, he starts to think it. And that's where the term diva wide receiver comes in. Odell really, I mean, he didn't coin it, but he really kind of revolutionized it. It was the temper tantrums. It was the going on the boats 2 days before the playoff game comes on. The screaming at coaches, the screaming that you're not getting the football enough. And I can't emphasize enough the temper tantrums, swinging the helmet at the field goal net. And Odell, to his credit, has grown up significantly in the last 3 to 4 years. Ever since he left the Browns, Odell doesn't say anything. He stays out of the media other than a few sound bites here and there. You see him working his ass off, getting to the field. But the problem is the damage is already done. So now teams look at it and they go, well, not only are you not healthy and you come with a bunch of injuries, but when you do get healthy, are we going to see the old Odell? Are we going to get this new grown up Odell? Like, we don't want to take the risk because we don't want the drama associated with your name. And I think that's where a lot of teams look at it and they say, yes, the injuries are definitely probably the most, important thing. I think if Odell was fully healthy, he'd be on a roster right now. He's just not, and he's getting older. But that stigma that comes with, you're out here acting crazy and throwing tantrums, and you're not acting like the true professional. And people say that that's an inherently white trait, or that you're talking about white guys like quarterbacks. No, I'm not. There's plenty of black athletes out there that have conducted themselves in the most professional manner. There are tons of examples to look up to that are African American athletes, not only in basketball, but football and in baseball and every sport that anyone can compete in. There are plenty. Serena Williams is a great example. She's a black athlete. She's the greatest tennis player of all time, and she was the consummate professional. So these aren't inherently white traits. These are personality traits that I believe young people get from a certain age when they're told they're this good at something, and they're just never told, have a little bit of humility, or they're not geared the right way, or led the right way. And a lot of it is, who's there to guide them. And unfortunately, in this case, in the Ja case, I don't think anybody has.
Yeah, his dad, like they were, and he turned into kind of one of his boys. But kind of what you said in terms of the Odell thing, I think the reason the Odell market is not really there is because there's really only a handful of teams that would be better if they went and got him. And those teams are already teams that have good receivers or have good receiving cores. Like, I don't want to bring Odell in as my number one. So in terms of, yes, the injury things, but at the end of the day, right now, with what the draft is doing with wide receivers, the draft is producing guys that they might not be Odell, but they're going to like the receiver position has changed.
It's so NFL ready. It is unbelievably NFL ready from day one.
Because the game shifted that way, it was like everyone's like, "Oh, you just can't miss on this guy," or you just can't. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of those now. Like, hey, there's a lot of guys coming out at 6'2", all built like DK Metcalf. There's other guys that are coming out at 5'11", and they're really, really fast and they run crisp routes. Like, I don't care about Odell anymore. Like, that's my big reasons always with the Bears. It's like the Bears have always consistently drafted receivers terribly because clearly their scouts can't, like, they just don't know the position. Like, until they get the scouts out of the building and stop referring to them to, hey, I think we need to draft these guys and these guys. That's been the biggest issue with the Bears. It's not hard to see wide receiver talent. It really isn't. It's how good are your hands? How fast are you? How good are your routes? One of those three things are elite. Congratulations. You just got yourself a further investigation into seeing if you do one of those other two really, really well. But it's really starts with, do you have good hands? Oh, you can't catch? Okay. We're not taking you. So like Odell, he can catch. Like, yes, he's got amazing hands. But then it's like, yeah, he's injured. Yeah, he's older. He's not as fast as some other guys. He doesn't like, yes, he runs good routes, but again, I can go get a guy in the draft in the second round that I'm going to pay chump change. And if he doesn't work, I get rid of him. Didn't really cost me anything. Who knows? A team, he might show some flashes and team might actually give me something for him. Like,
yeah,
too many guys want a bet. And like, yes, I know he mentioned, oh, I just said 4 isn't enough. Who wants to spend a bunch of money on a receiver? Like, the supply is massive right now of receivers.
It's huge.
They can't ask for big money. Like, now the fact that Tyreek got his money, and you got some of these other guys that like, hey, I like Jefferson's money is going to be coming, Chase's money is going to be coming, but like other than those I'm sorry, Odell, you're not any of those guys.
Right.
You're not a top 5 receiver in the league anymore. You might be top 15, and that's just depends on truly what happens. It was a great situation with the Rams. He didn't have to be a number 1
Yeah.
guy. He fit in perfectly. He was, "Hey, if you end up open on a route, perfect. We're gonna hit you when you're open because we'll see it open." But he's it's a very small market for him. It's a very, very, very small market. A team that has to already have a good wide receiver as a number 1 established, and a number 2 is a best option for Odell. I'd even think the best case scenario for him, take like the issue now is he's already won a ring. So like the fact that he
He just
won one
wants
with the
more money.
Rams,
Yeah.
it's okay. Like, if you don't want another ring, then it's like, I'd try to find a place that really doesn't have a receiver, maybe see if they'll pay you 5, 6
Right.
million. But someone said, "Oh, reports of 20 mil." And
No.
that's what made him finally come out and say, "No, I just said more than 4," which more than 4 probably still means like 8.
Yeah.
And I don't,
Probably
and I don't know if I want to,
probably closer to
I
10.
don't know. I don't know if I want to pay Odell $8 or $10 million a year.
Yeah, you're right. So look, Odell has had too many injuries, and this happens. It's the nature of the position. But the one thing that I think really resonated with me that you were talking about is that the two most in today's NFL, the two most NFL ready positions, in my opinion, are offensive line and receiver. I mean, you can basically take. I mean, look at all of the guys that go first round that are offensive linemen. You see sometimes they're Pro Bowlers year one. Like they're second team or third team all pro and they're rookies. They're first team all rookie. And it's because those positions in today's NFL, they translate so well. The only thing people are looking now for out of their offensive linemen is how athletic and mobile are you? So can your feet move well? Can you shift well? And are you strong? So that you can shove somebody out of the way. There is no more, you have to be really good at identifying this or your shift has to be good here. That's why we see so many sacks going on in the NFL now. It's because offensive lines don't need to be that great with how fast the game has changed. Similarly with the wide receiver position, you spread the field enough and no, you're not allowed to hit guys over the middle. The pass interference penalties are a lot more, they're a dime a dozen. So NFL receivers, basically you could tell a really, really good college receiver, hey, the NFL is going to be very similar to kind of what you did in college. It's just going to be the guys are slightly stronger, the guys are slightly faster. And that's why you see guys like Jamar Chase, who are these stud college players, when they come into their first year and they get 80 receptions for 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns, people are like, where did this guy come from? When in reality, the only thing that's really changing, like Jamar said, is that there's no stripe on the ball.
Yeah, it's tough because I think the NFL, I definitely think we're going to have to see how, as we get closer to the season and some rule changes happen, because that's definitely going to be happening before the season starts. The game got shifted so much to offense that I think the NFL has a chance to kind of peel back on some of that, or the game has a chance of turning into basketball.
Mm.
It might turn into a very one-sided thing where the defenses, they are very handicapped, and at the end of the day, it's still football, and so, like, that's part of the condition where that takes some of that away, that, hey, you still have to tackle guys. Guys regularly get more injured because it's tackle 16 games, every game matters. Well, 17 games, every game matters, and that being the big kind of it's the short span of, hey, we really got to do this right now. But because of, like you were talking about, receivers can come in and instantly hit it off because it's all about offense.
Mhm.
You can't touch guys. You can't hit them hard across the middle. And that was like the whole across the middle thing. As a safety, hitting guys across the middle is great. You can completely remove a receiver essentially from a game if he comes across the middle and you kind of tag him, not as a, hey, I'm trying to knock you out, but you can kind of get a guy pretty good in his midsection as like a normal good hard tackle, and you'd be shocked how hesitant they are coming back across the middle.
Yeah,
It's
because they don't want
it
they don't
makes
want to
it
get hit like that.
it makes a guy take a little bit of a hesitation. People always talks about, oh, he heard footsteps. That is a very real thing once you normally got to the next level, because guys were literally getting destroyed.
Mhm.
Because you take that element away of that kind of it's I'm glad the NFL, you don't really see the bang bang play anymore, because like that bang bang, like that led that some of those were just,
Gnarly, yeah.
and having been on both ends of those, like knowing the feeling on both sides, I'm like, okay, like I'm glad that's no
Right.
longer like that getting transitioned out is so much better. So what you're seeing now is you're talking about spacing. Well, the field is 53 yards wide, and you've got 4 and 5 guys running down this field, and they're going all these types of ways and crisscrossing, and most of them are way faster than they used to be. And now because really not getting allowed with touching them further down the field, and that's a big thing in college, is in college, you can have your hands on the guy all the way until the ball is in the air.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference between that and the NFL. It's like, well, you only get the first 5. So if you are not like, if someone's not in press coverage on you and you kind of hit a little bit of a move, they don't even touch you your entire route. And especially if they're in zone, the corner's bailing immediately unless they have behind the line of well, for them is in front of lines, but behind the line of scrimmage or in the flats. Most of the time, they're either staying right there and kind of messing with you and then will pass you off, or they're going to turn and run with you if it's like if it's off man. Like a lot of times, like they'll just turn and run with you, and you can kind of hit them with a quick move because you have so much space. It's tough for a safety getting over on sidelines. But then on the exact flip of that, you have these guys on defense now, and I think on the defensive side of the ball, it's changed because now you're starting to see the defense start to shift more like Diggs has been playing with the Cowboys, where teams are a lot more okay with a guy kind of hovering in space, and like teams are being okay giving up points now. Before, defenses used to talk about, man, we're going to go out there and shut them out. You know, we're going to lay them with a goose egg and we're going to hit them hard and we're going to do. It's like that is no longer the game plan for defenses in the NFL anymore. You shut a team out, you played perfect. Like everything went your way that
Right.
game. Your offense was money. Your defense was money. Special teams, money. Everything went your way. Every bounce, every fumble, every kick, everything went your way. That's the difference in the NFL. If you know, hey, we give up 24 points or less, we're going to win this game. I think you kind of feel better about some guys on defense that, hey, you might get a pick, you might get a short field, and we're going to get a cheap score here, and we're guaranteed to keep them under 24. That's now, I think, where the game has changed to on the defensive side. Whereas I think that might be where teams start to try to get an advantage back, where they start to try to play a little bit more of this, hey, yeah, we'll give you one play because we know that we're also going to get a
Right.
play.
No, it makes sense. And look, it's an interesting point of view, and we're going to see what comes up in the NFL season. Unfortunately, that's all the time we got today on Say It Like You See It. It's been kind of a slow news week. Still no word on Aaron Rodgers and what he's going to be doing. Apparently, there's now
Does
talks.
the Packers want a first round pick?
Well, yeah, it's not going to happen. There's no way the Jets
It,
give up a first rounder. No chance. So Aaron's going to
which
end
is
up.
why which is why we're at a stalemate. The Jets are saying, "Hey, we want Aaron Rodgers. We'll give you like a second or a third like we did for Favre." And then you have the Packers like, "Nope, you want Aaron Rodgers, you better give us a first rounder," which is what, like, if the Jets make one phone call, they can say they want Mitch Trubisky, and I think they would
Yeah.
have more leverage over the Packers at this
It's
point.
true. So Aaron Rodgers still remains a Green Bay Packer, but he doesn't remain a Green Bay Packer. It's a weird situation. I can tell you this: he has zero intention of playing for the Green Bay Packers this year. So my supposition is that if the deal doesn't get done, he'll just retire. He'll pull one of those moves and he'll say, "I'll forfeit the 60 mil. I'm done." He doesn't want to play for the Packers.
No, I bet you what might happen. He's probably going. He's gonna take. He'll sit because you know that there's going to be a team that's going to need it.
Well, you might
There's
be
going to
right.
be a team where
A team
a
bite.
QB. It happens. It happens every year in the NFL. There will probably be one team where a QB gets hurt. That team is now desperate. They're going to make a phone call, and Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady is going to go to that team.
Keep an eye on the Washington Commanders. I know that they said that they were rocking with Sam Howell this year, but if you had the opportunity to go out and spend on Aaron Rodgers, no matter how much he costs, I think they might do it. For Say It Like You See It, thank you guys for joining us on a Tuesday. Remember, you can follow us on social media. Say It Like You See It on TikTok. Say It Like You See It pod on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you stream your podcast. We're also on Facebook. From Fond du Lac, I was going to say Fargo. From Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, the heart of Packer country, I am Trace, the Moose Moustakis. Joined by me, as all, Quinn Mighty Q Redmond from Fargo. We will see you guys on Friday. Be cool.